Hey everyone, this is Amani. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am back as a 20-something-year-old with a messy room, a bunch of thoughts, and my camera, basically. Why it's important to call out that I have a lot of thoughts is because I end up writing a lot of those thoughts in a couple of newsletters here and there. But today, I actually want to talk about those thoughts out loud and see if any of you basically resonate with it. And if it were to be a generic YouTube video, I honestly would have just asked you to subscribe because it takes like 1 second. But at the same time, today I'm going to talk about some of my thoughts and some musings. And it's very relevant for you to check out a creator, no matter how big or small, whose thoughts you really align with or resonate with, even to a tiny degree. And this is relevant because there's just so much kachra on the internet, and the algorithm ends up recommending random stuff to random people. So you are basically responsible to clean that algorithm a little bit and have creators who are actually talking about relatable stuff or making you think about stuff that you hadn't thought about before. And that's practically what my larger aim is. So if you resonate with anything that I say in the next 10-15 minutes or whatever, consider hitting the subscribe button. If not, I understand. I'll take it with a pinch of salt. So let's get started. Today I'm going to talk about something called as decade resolutions, but I'll not immediately jump onto it. I'll do a little story time, a little thoughts as to what goes on in my daily vulnerable life. I am 24 at the moment, and I have realized, I had this realization, by the way, in the past month, because past month was my birthday, and I usually hate the time around my birthday, and I usually also hate the time around New Year's. And I don't say the word hate lightly because I'm usually very upset during these two occasions. This is basically because in my head I have set some milestones for myself that by my birthday I should have done X and Y and Z, or by New Year's or this year I should have done X and Y and Z. And those dates, like my birth date and the New Year's, is usually a period when I then sit down to reflect, and I'm like, you know what, I'll just see what's happening, and I'll probably like analyze what I've done in the past year or so. And I'm usually never happy with where I have been. And it's actually very crazy because I do this year on year and I end up getting disappointed year on year. So this year I was, of course, doing it again, and I was just so pissed at myself. I was like, Amani, you have been doing this for far too long and you've been hurting yourself for far too long. Maybe this is not a right approach to go about it. Not that you shouldn't introspect, or not that you should not think about your growth and your journey and your milestones and your goals or whatsoever. But at the same time, to know that when I do it, I'm gonna feel sad around these two dates was not a healthy way to go about it. I realized largely that I'm viewing introspection with a very negative light. And introspection, as the word suggests, can just be viewed with the lens of inspecting. It should be just viewed with the lens of curiosity, and that's something that I wasn't doing. I was just looking at introspecting as this is something that's gonna make me feel bad because I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And after rounds of therapy on this topic and just a lot of thought given into this, I also realized it's basically because I have a lot of versions of myself. There's a current version of myself, which is who I am in here and now, and there's an ideal version of self, which is where I would potentially like to be, right? And whenever there's a dissonance between the current self and the ideal self, and whenever I realize that there is a dissonance between these two selves, is when I end up getting anxious and I end up getting like uncomfortable with whatever's happening. Which is very funny to even address because I don't think anyone is ever truly happy with where they are in life. I mean, of course, if you're grateful, I'm very happy for you. I'm also grateful for my life, the privilege that I have, the fact that, you know, I have a family, a roof, a financial means to own or whatever. But at the same time, I'm not fully satisfied with where I am, and it's a very generic feeling to have. Like, I could imagine a lot of other people in their early 20s also coming up and saying, hey, I'm also not fully satisfied with where I am, and I wouldn't be surprised. And this is not a unique feeling to have, which is why it was strange to have such a regular realization. Sorry for the side note, but I also read the quote, by the way, lately, which makes me think about this entire situation with a new lens, that it can be very, very long that you are taking to basically understand something that you intellectually believe in a second. For example, I can intellectually believe in a second that doing this is actually amplifying my anxiety. Sure, rationally that makes sense, but actually taking steps and understanding it fully in your body to not do the same things again that are triggering your anxiety are actually two very different things. So realizing is not actually the same as understanding, which is something that I just like I feel like this was something that I knew all along and you guys knew all along, but when someone just says it out loud or when you read something like this, you're like, oh fuck, I didn't view it in this perspective. But anyway, coming back to me feeling all sorts of feelings around New Year's and my birthday. So I did this exercise where I actually sat down and thought where I thought I would be when I was 14. And at 14, I thought I'm going to be a journalist. It's so funny because I like to write and I thought that the only way that writers get paid is if they are journalists. Of course, that's one avenue, but I didn't know like any better. And that was just it in my head. And then I grew up to realize that I can't write on command. I can only write when I feel like writing. I can only write when every word of mine is not being scrutinized, because if it is, then I won't be able to put across my real thoughts and my real emotions. So I dropped that idea later on when I gained more maturity and then did whatever I'm doing at the moment. So it's so funny to realize that at 14 I thought the real happiness and the real success lies in being a journalist, but at 24 that vision for me is completely different because I can't imagine being one, only because of the nature of the job that does not align with what I want. So I am doing actually the easiest thing out. Maybe I'm like chickening out, but what I'm doing at the moment to save myself from this yearly distress of birthdays and New Year's being an anxious period is buying myself more time. I am now buying myself an entire decade. I do introspect time and again, and I live a lot in the past, which is not healthy. But at the same time, I feel like I can't predict how the next 10 years are going to turn out to be like. So all this yearly or half-yearly introspection that I'm doing is helpful to only a certain degree, but not fully, because I'm not taking in the nuances that are relevant, which is, did the pandemic hit around this time? Did your realizations change? Did something major happen in your family? Did your priorities change? Did your interests change? Did something major happen in your job that led you to be where you are? Yada yada yada. What I'm basically trying to say is that I feel like the next time I'm doing this level of deep introspection about am I where I should be is at 34. Now I don't want you to get me wrong, because I still have things that I'd like to achieve within the next year or the next 6 months or so. But at the same time, I still feel that you can't measure things with such a short duration, because a lot of times when you're doing this introspection activity on a very very regular basis, you are actually not giving life time and space to unfold itself. There would be times when the changes that have happened, maybe in your body, maybe in the way you work, maybe in your interests, are so subtle that they're not as easily recognizable. And at the same time, there also could be weeks where things have changed drastically. Imagine COVID coming in and a pandemic hitting everyone, right? That happened. Of course, the pandemic started in 2019, but in 2020, I was in college when the COVID hit and my college was shut and whatever, and within those 2 weeks, my life fully transformed. My life fully changed, as did for everybody else, right? Because you thought it was like a 2-week long period, and then it kept on getting extended, and you realized, oh fuck, this is a huge thing that I wasn't ready for, or the world wasn't ready for. So what I'm trying to say is that there would be weeks as such, and you would realize this in your lifetime and again, that there was that 1 month or that one phase where something changed in the way of the universe and the way the things were happening to me and for me and by me, that led a huge chart of where you are currently in your life. And these phases could either be external, something like a pandemic, or internal, where you're doing a job and you finally realize this is not for me, I probably want to pursue X or Y or Z. So that's what I'm trying to say, that there would be weeks or months or phases here and there that can determine the changes happening in your entire decade. and at the same time there could be like years when nothing very substantial has happened, and both are absolutely okay because both are some things that you don't fully have a control on. I also feel like if we fixate on a specific path or a specific plan, we are forcing our lives to be imposed to that specific framework, and that framework actually conforms to our limited and narrow understanding and perspective of the world. And what it basically does is that it gives us a false illusion of control, which is at the end of the day an illusion because you never have full control. I feel like my 14-year-old self would be very proud that I'm saying this because I'm someone who suffered through anxiety for a very long period of her life. And when you are someone who's gone through anxiety time and again, the only thing that keeps you grounded and the only thing that keeps you just in place or calm is that if you feel like you have a sense of control, if you feel like you can control the situation and not the what ifs. So having this realization is a big deal for me, and accepting this realization and understanding this realization is a big deal for me. But what I'm basically trying to say is that I still have a rough vision of where I'd like to be in the next year. It's not like I don't think through still, because I still wanna, like, that's important for my anxiety to be in place. But at least by 34, at least by pushing this timeline of every year to every 10 years is helping me let life unfold itself, which is free of any boundaries, any expectations, and any self-imposed vision of where it could be, because I might be limiting it to a very large degree. There's this quote by Sadhguru. I don't religiously follow him, but he said this once to a creator that I heard in an interview, and it was just stuck with me for a very long time, which is, I hope your dreams never come true, because I hope that you should get things that you can't even dream of, which is such a beautiful thing to just accept at the end of the day. At this point, I feel like I'm journaling out loud and I want to watch this video again when I'm 34. But largely at 34, I want to understand that it should be okay if I'm not where I had originally planned, as long as I actually landed somewhere where I truly belonged. So that's it for this video. Thank you for listening to my chopper and my raw thoughts, but raw but mindful thoughts. I also wrote this in my newsletter, by the way. I run a bunch of newsletters, Instagram pages and communities that are linked in the description. If you're interested, please check them out. And now, if you resonated with anything that I said in the last few minutes, please consider hitting the subscribe button, because it will take you 1 second, but it will mean the world to me if you end up doing it. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great year ahead. Also, if you're someone whose birthday is around the corner, or given that I'm uploading this around New Year's, and you're also someone who faces these not so jovial feelings around these two periods, I hope this video helped. I hope you're able to give yourself that time and space that your journey and your path deserves, and just know I'm here for you. I'm not just, by the way, saying it because I know this is a one-sided conversation, but you can drop me a DM on Instagram, or I'll try to link my email or something down below in case you want to let something out to a stranger. Thank you so much for watching. It has been lovely talking. Consider hitting the subscribe button, and thank you for being here. Bye bye.